Welcome to Impact Moments powered by 90. Today, we're joined by Amy Morin. Amy grew a construction company from 0 to 40 million and exited that after 22 years. She bought and turned around a fly fishing resort in Montana and exited that too. She earned an MBA. She became an EOS implementer. She's also a certified exit planner. So she has a great depth of experience. And what's really cool is Amy gets vulnerable and tells you all of these things that seem like she did right, but one of the most important parts that she felt like she could have done better. And she built these businesses ready to sell, but she didn't build the personal or financial plan for what came after. So in this conversation, Amy shares that impact moment that reshapes her family's life, now drives the way that she works with her clients. We get into ego, we get into identity, the parts of the exit that nobody warned her about. So can't wait for you to learn from her. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Impact Moments powered by 90. I'm Christine.
I'm Kris Snyder.
And I'm really excited. We've got Amy Morin here today with us. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself. You're an EOS implementer. So how did you kind of get your start and land into the EOS space?
Yeah, so I am an EOS implementer and also an exit planning advisor. So I'll kind of weave some of those stories together about how I got into this space. I've owned a construction company, grew that from 0 to 40 million, and then we had a beautiful exit of that after 22 years. And then took a little bit of time off, and I'll kind of weave that into a story later on as to the impact of that whole thing. But then purchased a fly fishing resort in Montana. So that was in need of a turnaround, turned that company around for 9 years, and then had an exit from that as well. And so now you can start to see this natural transition of buying, selling, owning businesses, right? And needing some way to function them to increase the value in order to create an exit. And so not knowing any of that language during that whole process, it was a natural transition. You know, we were together a few days ago or whatever, talking with somebody about different phases of life and including different phases of our business journey. So having owned these businesses for years, right? I mean, if you do the math, I'm now at probably 35 years in business. It's like, what's the next phase? And the next phase for me wasn't, well, let me go buy another company and have 52 employees again. I didn't really want that, right?
No, thank you.
Exactly.
I've done that.
Exactly. So the next phase is I had also, when we sold our construction company, I went to graduate school and got my MBA. It was one of those things where our kids were going to college, and I thought, hey, I missed a step. You know, I have a college degree, but I forgot about the graduate school thing. And so it was a great opportunity for me to go to school and get that. So now I have my MBA. I've sold these couple of businesses that were successful, and I thought, you know, I'd really like to do some coaching or some consulting or whatever, and didn't have the exact framework that I thought I should bring to the marketplace. So my first consulting gig was for a construction company, right? Construction background, construction companies love you, and they were looking to grow and scale, which is what we had done. We had multiple offices in multiple states. And so they brought me in and said, hey, help us create all these processes so that we can use that to duplicate where we're going and how we're going to get there. They were running on EOS.
There you go.
So that was my first entry point into, wow, there is a structured business operating system that works that you can duplicate throughout an organization and to use to grow and scale. And but they were self-implementing and were like, you know, had read the traction book where they were part of a peer group, and they thought that was the end all of traction or of EOS, but yet they weren't really gaining any traction. And so I said, let me go to an EOS conference, get some more information, and I think I can really help you. We all need to know more here. And so at that EOS conference, I sat in all those breakout sessions, and I thought, my whole entire life's journey has brought me to this exact moment in time to be an EOS implementer.
Wow.
So one of the owners of the company was owned by 3 people. She also went along to this the conference. And so we get back and we're having a, hey, tell me your best nuggets, what were your biggest takeaways and stuff from the conference? And so I said, I'll be honest with you. My biggest takeaway is I'm just like so enthralled with EOS and the power that it can bring to an organization. I feel like I need to go be an EOS implementer. And she said to me, I'm so glad you say that, because I sat in all those same breakout sessions and thought, Amy was born to be an EOS implementer. So I finished my contract with them and then became part of the franchise.
That's so fascinating
Yeah.
that they were running on EOS and brought you in without being an implementer first.
Yeah.
And just as like a business coach consultant.
Yep.
Is that right?
But
Wow.
the process work is separate work, right? Like
Yes.
and there are plenty of good companies out there doing process work for EOS companies.
Yes.
Because as an EOS implementer, we'll talk about process and we'll talk about 8 to 14 core, but you were doing the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what happened next? Did you jump right into it? You went to boot camp,
I did.
started your
So
journey?
it was the year that we all had to, buy the franchise, right? So I was the first boot camp class. Hadn't been a boot camper before, or hadn't bought what's
It was a membership model
there you
before
go. So
versus the franchise.
yeah, there you go. So I didn't know any of that. So I mean, I'm green as green can be. However, I saw it run in a company. Like I was part of a company that was running on EOS, so it was incredibly insightful, and I had all that business knowledge, right? I mean, we had done EOS-like stuff in our construction company. That was before traction, right? And so I knew what it took to be successful. I just didn't have the same words of what Gina was doing. I mean, we had our VTO, we just didn't call it a VTO, right? We were answering the 8 questions, maybe not exactly, but I saw the value of what it looked like to run on a business operating system, because we created an incredible company. You don't get from 0 to 40 million running blindsided. I mean, you just don't, right?
Right. You piece it together.
Yes.
That's I mean,
Yes.
most of the concepts and I'm not downplaying what Gino did, but most of these have been around forever.
Correct.
Right.
And he admits that.
And he assembled them in a really simplistic way such that they could be, absorbed by the entire company, not just the leaders.
That's correct.
And that's what, from my experience in those, whether it's a construction company, manufacturer, if you can get everyone working as one on EOS, that's where you really feel that traction, that lift take off.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So you go to the conference, you become an implementer, you're getting your first clients and starting to do EOS as an implementer.
Yes.
Where do you find EPI? How does that start coming into the picture?
So all this sounds incredibly successful, right? Yeah, I've grown these great companies and now you ride off into the sunset with a big bank account. However, I missed a few steps on the whole exit part too. Yes, we built a great company, but our exits really weren't as successful as they could have been.
Yeah.
And so when we start working with an exit planning client, you talk about 3 legs of the stool. And those 3 legs are business readiness, financial readiness, and personal readiness. And so we had great business readiness. We'd created a business that was not key person dependent. We had a depth in our company. We had structure, scorecard. I mean, all of the great business readiness stuff. We forgot about the personal readiness and the financial readiness on the personal side. And I didn't even realize it was such a thing, to be totally honest with you. And so as I've now had the fallout of the financial readiness piece and the personal readiness piece, I go start looking for, hey, what did I miss? And that's where EPI came in. And so the Exit Planning Institute. And so for me to become a certified exit planning advisor, again, was a natural, I've messed this whole thing up in my life. I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And I've got all this boots on the ground knowledge. Again, this is not theory. I've lived through this. So to say all that, EPI and the Exit Planning Institute really encourages a team, an exit team. And it's that team that I missed, right? I had the CPA who helped us do a business valuation. I had the attorney, all the things that you think you need in an exit. I had no financial planner at all. And so that matters because there's so much of the business, the way that you live you rely on the business. Great example, cell phones, right? I mean, I didn't pay for a cell phone. I didn't pay for health insurance. I didn't pay for any of that stuff when we were a business owner, right? I mean,
That's
how
right.
much do you pay for that, Kris?
Right.
Right. And that's just natural part of owning a business. Well, you don't own a business anymore. It's like, oh shit, who pays for all that stuff? And we need to make sure that we planned on that. I still had 2 kids going to college and I was in graduate school. There's $100,000 worth of college debt every single year we didn't plan on. I mean, you're so excited about, hey, we're selling our business. We've created a nest egg, something of value that somebody's willing to pay us for, that you
Right.
forget about that side.
It's fascinating because I've gotten to do a good amount of this work, is where that that wealth gap. So
Yes.
people are quick to put a value gap on what the business is worth today to where the business needs to go, but they don't do what you're doing in that, which is their wealth gap. Because now, how much do I? You're not you're not done.
Right.
How much
Correct.
you got a lifestyle? You've got all this stuff, and it sounds simplistic, but they'll I had one client that she was ready to sell her business and I was helpful, so I got her to that place, and then she was done, and she regretted it. She came back because she did her earnout, and she was like, "I didn't sell my business for enough." I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, you sold your business for an appropriate amount. What you didn't think about in the moment was how much did you need,
Mm,
right, for the
that's right.
run the rest?" And even more importantly, every existential like you, she didn't know what she's gonna do next.
Yes.
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 So now you were a founder, you built a business, you sold it, and I think that's where so much of the exit planning starts to come in on the personal side
It
and do the
does.
personal planning for what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I didn't feel that as much, Kris, as my husband did.
Oh, yeah?
So, and it's because, right, I finished graduate school. Like I had other things that I was being drawn to, right? I always tell my clients, what are you being drawn to versus pushed out of, right? Those are
Right.
two very different thought processes and mindsets. So, for my husband, our business was started in the same town we both grew up in. It was his initials on the side of the building. Right? And so now he's walking down Main Street and he does not have the identity of, I'm a business owner anymore. And it took him years to recover. So, on that personal side, that is something that's also often overlooked. And nobody talks to you about that. Nobody even puts that little bug in your ear of, hey, don't forget about this side.
Yes.
What are you going to do next? And it's easy to, going back to the business owner that you mentioned, the statistic is 75% of business owners regret selling their business 1 year later. And it's because that 1 year is kind of like a honeymoon. You're like, oh, I'm going to play golf and I'm going to go
Right.
fishing and I'm going to travel the world and I'm not going to have to get up every day at the certain time, right? Or
Right.
my schedule is much lighter. And that feels good when you think about it initially. And then a year later, you think, well, my life sucks. It is not as fulfilling as it used to be. I've lost my purpose, right? Now what? And that is real. That's real. Now, I don't help people on that side of the business other than to ask the questions and then send them, to somebody on my team who helps them with
That's
that.
right. There's
Yeah.
other advisors that they specialize in that work,
Correct.
not the
Yeah.
work that you do.
Right. The point is that we have to talk about it. It's part of the exit planning process. And it's one, again, that I've lived. And so I'm incredibly passionate about. So for me, the passion lies in bringing EOS, right? Getting this operating system up and running to get your business ready. And also the personal financial side, asking all the appropriate questions, and the personal side about what are you going to do next that really is going to fulfill your heart.
It took me a while. By the way, at Night we're big fans of EPI and all the great work and all the SEPAs. But it took me a while to understand value acceleration methodology, which is the other
Yes.
Chris Snyder's
Yes.
Walking to Destiny, his framework.
Yeah.
That he really did create a framework such that EOS can slot in if you choose that,
Yeah.
right? Which we're excited when they do.
Yeah.
If
Exactly.
you choose that path, because his approach isn't as detailed as what Gino wrote, right? It is a framework, not an operating system.
Yeah.
And that delineation for me when it clicked was like, oh, no, I get it now.
Yes.
That's why there's I don't know, a couple hundred EOSIs that are SEPAs now. I've lost
Yes.
track.
Yeah.
There's so many because it is a community. It is an approach that's more holistic in that exit part of it than just the build and run part, which we do really well with EOS.
Yeah. Right. Because one of the ways that we close that value gap is we strengthen the four intangible capitals, right? And those four
Mhm.
intangible capitals are human capital, social capital, structural capital, customer capital. So, what better way to do that than run your company on EOS? Because we speak to that in the 6 key components all day long.
Now I'm going to do a shameless plug on 2 fronts.
Yes.
The first front is that 90 actually can help you with those things as well. And a lot of people don't realize that if you want to do personal planning in our software,
Yes.
you can do that.
Awesome.
You just make yourself an individual team, or if you wanted to be a company, you could do that as well. And then we configure the template, if you will, inside for doing personal planning, similar to like a personal VTO, right? And if you want to think of it that way. And then you can collaborate with your other partners if you want to, let them come and see that personal plan inside the software itself, such that you can have more of your advisors involved than just the one.
Yeah. So, can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Is there plan or is there already something in 90 where you can do a roadmap, create a roadmap for the future?
Tell me more about your roadmap.
Well, so in exit planning, one of the greatest tools is to say, take a look at where your value gap is right now,
Mhm.
right? And then help you create a roadmap for where you want to be in that 3 to 5 year time frame.
So
Definitely.
we have a new tool called Planning Board.
Okay.
And then the planning board, it's meant to do that. So you can think about it as what if I was going to plan an annual goal and I wanted to chunk out at 4 quarters.
Yeah.
You could do that. If you're 5 years out, you could just change the time frame for the tiles in the planning board
Yeah.
and set the objective. It's kind of like the getting what you want tool to
Yes.
some degree, right?
Yeah.
Not the same. You just start at the end in mind and go, okay,
Yep.
what are the things I need to do along the way? And the good news about this is it also can link to rocks and issues. There's multiple linking into
Okay.
the tool itself.
Yeah,
Love
it's really
that.
nice because it's flexible enough where it's talking about what's now, what's next, what's later, what's in the future. You're not trying to time bound everything, but
Right.
you're showing how it links back to those 1, 3, 5 year objectives that you have.
Yep.
So you can start to actually plan out what it's going to take to get those bigger things done.
And
Nice.
it's actually really interesting, Christine, because I don't think we've thought of that application for the exit planning side of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
We've
I
been
love
thinking
the
of more
angle.
for the longer term VTO type of stuff, whether it's the goals that you set annually or sometimes even the 3-year picture. But I like your thought there on how to tie that in.
Yeah. I think we should work on that together
Yeah,
because
let's
that'd be
do
really,
that.
I mean, it's just great to bring that to your clients for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of people getting excited about it, especially as they're going into like departmental teams where, like marketing as an
Mm-hmm.
example, there's all of these little nitpicky things that have to happen. And for them to be able to see it laid out and have it be sequential and have it
Right.
tie up,
Yeah.
like a lot of people are getting excited about that concept. So I like the idea of elevating
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, you brought an impact moment today.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to tell us that story and the ripple effect that happened.
Yeah. So I think the impact moment kind of goes into what we've already been talking about, right? Is the what happens when you are not fully prepared,
Mhm.
and the life lessons that teaches you, right?
Yep.
I mean, good, bad, and the ugly. And for us, that or for me, that impact moment was the financial readiness, right? I mean, what really has been the driver or the lack of financial readiness is really how I need to put that. And the driver of who I am today and what I'm passionate about and how I teach has to do with that whole financial readiness part. That's the dose of reality that hits you in the face
Mm.
that says you can't take this lesson and and continue to be shameful over it, right? Because the initial thought is
Is
I have a lot of shame around that. Again, people look at you and say, "Man, you sold a company that was worth $40 million. You must, have done really, really well. Why are you still working? Why are you still as passionate as you are?"
yeah.
And so you don't want to share well, I forgot a whole section.
Right.
I mean, and
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
going back to like, your top line revenue is 40 million, but people don't pay you on your top line revenue. I think that's the other part of this conversation that we must tell business owners
Yeah.
is you get paid on EBITDA or a multiple of EBITDA. And
Right.
so um, and in the construction industry, you're really heavy on assets. Not that we didn't have good EBITDA, but again, it sounds more glorious than it is. I just want to say that.
Well, and I think it's fair because there's a lot of owner's envy that happens because of lack of understanding. They're
Yes,
like, "Well, you must have because look at the trucks that you own. Look at," it's like, but
exactly.
it is the bottom line the value of the business is created and therefore sold on, and
Yes.
I don't think that translates really well to most people.
Right, right. So shameless plug for me. I do a lot of podcasts, right? I'm a podcast host, and so I always bring guests on who help to educate business owners about really how to calculate the value roughly. I mean, I'm not to replace a business valuation expert, but know what all the dynamics are involved in order to sell your company or kind of create a worth around your company. But going back to my impact
But
moment, yes.
you haven't actually plugged your podcast. You can tell us the
Oh,
name.
sorry.
You gotta
Yeah,
tell
the
us the name. Like,
name.
I'm waiting
Oh,
to hear the
sorry,
name
sorry.
of it.
It's called Exit Velocity. We're just changing the name, so it's the new
Okay,
name will be Exit Velocity, and that'll happen in the next couple weeks. But it's been
Great.
a Mastery Partners podcast.
awesome.
Mm.
Yeah. So to get rid of the shame around, when you say who you are and what you've done, that you missed a whole step, has really been a big impact moment in my life.
Do you have a specific like client or story related to somebody that you had to kind of help get there? Like they were struggling in the moment, and like were there any specific tactics or things that you did to help kind of pull them through?
As an EOS implementer, I feel like we coach, challenge our clients a lot,
Mhm.
almost in the space that they're in. And my impact story is not like clients don't come to me because they've got financial unpreparedness on their personal side, right? They come to me because they're having an issue in their company, they're hitting the ceiling, their
Mhm.
business isn't as valuable as they need it to be. Yes, that wealth gap, right? It all feeds in. Right.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's almost like when we talk to EOS clients about, oh, strengthen just the people component. I'm like, you can't. It's one holistic system and they all work together, right? And the same thing in exit planning. I can't just strengthen, because I'm a great picture of that. I can't just strengthen my business readiness and forget about the other two legs of the stool. That's not going to happen because it's
That's
all
right.
going to fail, right? Where do I really like the biggest impact is I'll say, hey, exit planning as a team, I realize that I'm working with you to strengthen the business side, the operating side, but let me get you in contact with a financial advisor or a wealth advisor or a business valuation expert or somebody on the personal side who will help you also prepare
Mm.
because I've done it wrong, right? And then I'll share all those stories, but nobody comes to me specifically for just the financial piece, right? Which was the biggest impact for me.
What I love about what you said inside the kind of the EOS implementer community, we talk about you go to market not through cold calling and blasting, you go through connectors.
Yes.
And what this universe of the community actually has is reasons to connect.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, my experience with those connectors, like, well, just do an intro. It's like, well, what's that doing for them? But if you actually have a reason to connect them,
Yes.
then they trust you. Well,
Yes.
then you're building the community of connectivity through those introductions of value. And I think that's something that we miss, in my opinion, inside the EOS implementation world when we just talk about connectors. It's like, let's get to the reason for that connection, the value created in the connection. And then I think, then you're going to have your financial planner do more connections for you, right? Because it's at the right time that the need is there versus just randomly, oh, you're a good person. Let me introduce.
That's right. And to your point, I think in the EPI world, because EPI corporate is so focused on creating exit planning as a team sport,
Mhm.
Yeah,
right? That they just naturally, when you become a certified exit planning advisor, you realize that connectors are so important for the business owner, right?
right,
For you, but really for the business owner. Like this whole thing, and we use exit a lot as a word, right? But it's just succession planning also. Like I've got
right,
a lot of
Right.
EOS clients who are um, nonprofits, and they need succession planning, I would say almost as much, if not more, than a for profit business that's going to go on the market for sale. Because if that nonprofit relies just solely on the executive director, what's going to happen when that executive director leaves? You suddenly have a nonprofit that has a great mission with nobody to run it.
right.
right? And so even if you're not thinking about exiting your company, just it's really good business strategy to put in play what we're talking about here this morning.
Yeah. And I always throw in the word optionality when I say exit because it just softens it for people. It's like exit optionality. That just means you have options.
Yeah.
And one of those can be your succession planning, right? Like, are you ready? Is there readiness for you to not be here without the dependencies that often exist, especially for founders?
Yeah.
It's interesting too. I've been at 90 since day one, and I remember early on, one of the founders came to me, and this is like maybe more of a process story, but he was like, "Okay, tell me what happens if you get hit by a bus." And I was like, I
Well,
should probably
sadness.
write some things
Sadness.
down. Like it's just like the whole frame up of like there's a lot of things that could happen that like you don't know if they will. And so I feel like that is a lot of what that exit planning motion is helping them think and plan for that kind of thing.
And the some of our experience has been around this topic is that people think just like we think we're going to live forever in that example, that you have all the time in the world to build your business, and they're not measuring it out and say, well, I'll get ready for it when I'm a year out. Well, then you're not ready for it a year out,
Yeah.
right? If you start the conversation now, maybe it is 5 years, maybe it is 10 years, but at least now you know what you're building and how you're building it.
Right. Yeah. And so, the impact is much longer, right, in the work that we do as EOS implementers and combined with exit planning, right? As an EOS implementer, our impact is typically that 2-year journey, right? And then you send them on their way. But exit planning, it can be much longer. And really, that impact is for their life. It's the legacy, right? You're
Right.
creating family wealth. I mean, it's a much longer runway than just a moment in time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit about some of the things that you're classifying as like a failure or wish I did it differently when you were selling and like really thinking about the other legs of the stool.
Yeah.
But when you look back, are there any specific stories or moments where you feel like this was a fuck up and I wish I could go back and do it differently? Do you have any other examples or things that you would go back to in that instance?
Oh man,
I always
where,
say,
where,
how much time do you
I
have?
was going to say, where do I start, right? For me, I would say ego. I
Mm.
wished that
Mm,
I had lost some of my ego a long time ago,
that's a
right?
good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess as you're starting, um, this is a big birthday year for me.
Okay.
I won't tell you
Nice.
how many, but I love to think that I'm maturing well into these years, right? In terms of thoughts and actions. And if I could have even dropped that ego, 10 years ago,
Mm.
uh, and been maybe a little bit more great, had a little more grace in my life, I probably would have made less bad choices.
I love your intentional word choice.
Yeah, but then that's a tough one to do, right? Again,
Yeah.
nobody really wants to admit that they've got this ego or
Yeah, and I think for me is I thought that that was part of my that the ego was part of my protection mechanism
Mhm.
when I
Yeah.
didn't realize that it wasn't protecting me,
Right.
right? Like that
Yeah, it was
doesn't, the egos
harming.
don't, that's right. It doesn't do
Yeah.
that, right? Finding your moments of grace, that does it, right?
Yeah.
There's ways in which you can
Yeah.
find it, but it's going
Yeah.
back to your younger self and going, all right,
Right, exactly.
you should
Enough
have,
now.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because you talked about a little bit earlier from a business owner's perspective, identity and like
Mhm.
losing that identity when you sell the business. And I feel like some of that kind of gets into the ego play of like
Mhm.
you're making all of these emotional decisions
Yeah.
and that's really hard.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you're wrapped up in it. So my last question is what are you reading, listening to, watching that's helping you grow personally or professionally?
Yeah. So one of the things I didn't talk about today that I love doing with teams as well as with exit planning clients, though, is I'm really passionate about creating other leaders.
Mm.
Okay.
And so I tend to read a lot of stuff about leadership and teach a lot about leadership. So my favorite book right now is The Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. And so that book is all about creating other leaders, right? And we think as a leader, and this is where my ego comes in from prior, right?
Right.
Is that a leader was like, I need to create a whole bunch of followers. I'm going to lead so great that everybody's going to follow.
Hmm.
And that is so far from the truth, right? You cannot make people follow you, first of all.
Right.
And it's really the leader's job to create other leaders.
Mm.
Yeah. Are you Simon Sinek fan at all?
I am.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
So I love a lot of his work on very
Yes.
similar to that topic and that approach of it's not
Yes.
about the followers.
Yes. And so now when I teach leadership courses, we start out first with the foundation of knowing who you are first. Because I'm a firm believer in you cannot lead others and or create other leaders unless you are so secure in who you are as a human being and how you want to lead. Like, what do you want to be known as a leader? And so we start there and we build from there. And then typically our third session or so, we move into how to create other leaders. What does that look like? So anyway, Liz Wiseman's book on the multipliers is all about that. And her tact in there also is that we think as a leader that we can't hold anybody accountable. And that's the worst kind of leader.
Right.
Right? I mean, so she goes into a lot of that too, which is why I'm really liking that book. So, all right, so that's what I'm reading and things on that line. But listening to, I love to geek out on health podcasts. You know, again, as you kind of get up there in age,
Yeah.
you love to figure out what's longevity look like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I listen to a lot of health podcasts. I also listen to Codie Sanchez, all about businesses. I mean, so, you know, I'm geeking out on health and business and leadership these days.
Those are good geek
Yeah.
outs. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I loved hearing about the merging of EPI and EOS and the work that you're doing there and hearing more about your background. So I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
It was great fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for watching Impact Moments powered by 90. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Amy's story is a real reminder that business is really one aspect. You can build a company that's valuable, structured, ready to sell, and still walk away unprepared of that life waiting for you on the other side. EOS gives you that clarity from a company perspective, and the exit planning work gives you clarity for what comes next. If today's conversation resonated, take Amy's lead. Look at those 3 legs of your own stool: business readiness, financial readiness, personal readiness, and ask which needs the most attention from you right now. Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please subscribe. Please share it with a leader who's building with you, and we'll see you next time.